I was transferred from the Aleutian Islands to mainland Alaska in 1980. Too late for the king season. Caught my first king at the Burma landing on the Little Susitna River the weekend before Memorial Day, 1981. And since then, I've thrown pretty much everything at them except dynamite. Since the late 80s, early 90s, I have been fishing for kings at the confluence of Montana Creek and the Susitna River. Before 2009, my wife and I camped out in the back of a pickup at the state campground at Montana Creek. Got too old for that and bought a camper, and have set up since then across the highway at the Montana Creek campground. Super folks. I caught this one at the mouth of Montana Creek, July 3rd, 1999. Things have changed since then. The river, the regulation, myself, and the techniques I use. This is the way I do it now. The first method I use is bottom fishing with corkies. It's like fishing for catfish, but without bait. I use a sliding weight on 50-pound test braid mainline. Enough weight is used to just hold bottom. The braid is attached to a 75-pound test barrel swivel using the fishing fool knot. A bead is placed between the swivel and slider to protect the knot. A 4-aught Gamakatsu octopus hook is tied onto a 2 to 3 foot length of 40-pound test monofilament using a standard bait loop knot. A bead, then 1 or 2 corkies are threaded onto the monofilament, which is then tied onto the free end of the swivel, again using a fishing fool knot. A bit of yarn, I prefer chartreuse, in the bait loop, and we're good to go. I prefer using corkies that are slightly less than 20 millimeters in diameter. Over the years, I've managed to collect quite a variety, both in color and size. If what I'm using doesn't tickle the fish's fancy, I'll try something different. Fish on. Those aren't birds you see flying around. Nice fish. If I can get him in here. That's a nice fish. The second technique I use is a jig and float. The jig and float method requires more effort than the corky method, especially if the current is fast. So when I get tired, I'll sit down and use the corkies. Setting up the float portion of this rig is pretty straightforward. To my 50-pound test braid main line, I attach a bobber stop knot, bead, float, and another bead. The braid is tied onto a 75-pound test barrel swivel using a fishing fool knot. Attached to the free end of the swivel is 2.5 to 3 feet of 40-pound test monofilament, again using the fishing fool knot. A 1/4 ounce jig, I make them myself, is tied onto the tag end of the leader with a fishing fool knot. About 1 foot above the jig, enough split shot is added to keep the float straight up and down as it floats downriver. Let's try it. I have found that my best success is to cast upstream to where the silt line if there is one, meets clear water. Then as the float moves downstream, I start retrieving just enough line to keep slack out of it, while at the same time attempting not to disturb the float. If you let too much slack form, then setting the hook will be ineffective. Fish on. You may be able to use one of these techniques on the king waters you fish. You ready? As always, before dropping your line in the water, check the regulations and emergency orders for the waters you'll be fishing. Good luck and fish on.